I have been so blessed. If you look at my IMDb, there's a good handful of projects where I'm playing a real person who left journals, who has descendants that tell stories about them. I've played people that are still alive, and I got to meet them. It's mind-boggling to me to think of a couple of decisions from a brother-in-law and a sister completely changed my life. And I actually fought it off, and I didn't want to do it. I was scared because I'm like, this is kind of isn't this a dark place to go? Isn't this a bad place to go? Or isn't this where all the weird people are? Are you kidding me? Yeah, they're weird, and they're my people. I'm like, this is where you are. Oh, I found you. It was so awesome.
Mornings are better with a warm beverage, even for Latter-day Saints. Meet Postum, the ideal coffee alternative and proud sponsor of This Week in Mormons podcast. Spotted on the coffee aisle at Smith's Grocery or at your local nearby store. Can't locate it? No worries. Order it at postum.com. Explore delicious recipes to tailor your Postum experience. Start your day off right with Postum.
Welcome everybody to This Week in Mormons with a special edition. I'm your host, Matt, here with Melissa.
Hi, Matt.
The reason it's a special edition is because there's a big movie launching nationwide tomorrow. We've talked about it before. It's called The Faith of Angels. Melissa's a big fan.
I am a big fan, Matt. It is such a good movie. Have you seen it yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
You're going to get a chance to see it this weekend. But yeah, we've got a big celebrity on the podcast today. I mean,
we have the star of Faith of Angels. Jasen Wade is with us. Jasen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. But oh my gosh, I almost that was funny. One of those laughing moments. I just about did something through my nose you shouldn't be doing. You haven't seen the movie. Come on, Matt.
Hasn't seen the movie.
Hey, listen. Garrett Batty's coming.
It's not the Faith of Angels. Stop putting words into our title. It's Faith of Angels.
It's not Faith of Angels?
It's Faith of Angels.
Faith of Angels.
It's the Faith of Angels movie.
Oh, she wins. No, she wins. She got it. You're right. It is. Yeah, I'm Jasen Wade, and not the star of the movie, but one of the stars of the movie. Yeah. And had a wonderful time with that. We'll get to that very, very soon. And if you're sitting there wondering, I kind of recognize the guy, I want to get a T-shirt that says, yes, I am that one guy in that one movie. Because it's the first thing that most people say. It was 17 Miracles that you probably saw me in. Maybe Cokeville Miracle. Maybe you love Kennedy. I don't know. One of those three is probably where you know me from.
Jasen, I'm not kidding. Go ahead, Melissa.
You say you're not the star of the movie, but this is true about you, Jasen. Like, you are in a lot of the LDS movies, right? Like, you're very recognizable for that. But I gotta tell you, Jasen, you're a really good actor, and I don't care what you're in. You come across as the star. Kirby Hayborn, he's got nothing on you. Nothing.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell him that next time I see him. Oh, I can't wait. He's gonna embrace me with one of his most beautiful, loving hugs. Have you ever had a hug from Kirby? They're amazing.
I can imagine.
He's gonna hug me, and I'm gonna whisper in his ear and say, "Melissa thinks I'm a bigger star than you."
Yeah,
I cannot wait. Thank you.
Okay, good. You're welcome.
Well, I'm not kidding, Jasen. One time I'm at Deseret Book with my kids, and I'm looking. They have this section that's like the top 10 movies, and I'm like, Jasen. I'm like, I think you were in 7 of the top 10 movies. Was this, Jasen, was this your lifelong dream? When you were a kid growing up, you said, one day I want to be highly featured at Deseret Book.
Highly featured at Deseret Book, yes. No, actually, and spoiler alert, or actually transparency, Melissa and Matt and I all grew up together.
Yeah.
And back then, you guys know that the only thing I did back then were those little roadshow things that my mom wrote and put on and forced me on the stage. That's it.
We all got forced into those. Roadshows, they need to make a comeback, actually.
They need to come back because that's where I got my start. But no, it was, after my mission and the third university, I stumbled on a dare to come down to Southern Utah University. And my brother-in-law knew I was miserable at the other university. I will not I don't want to, because it's a great university. I just don't want to disparage it.
It just wasn't for you.
I was miserable. Yeah, it was not for me. And he said, if you come down here, I need you to come to SUU. I think you belong at Southern Utah University. And I said to him, I don't want to go to school with a bunch of cows. That's how ignorant I was about this place. And he said, look, fair enough. Come down. If you don't fall in love with it, I'll pay for your gas back. And I was a starving student. I'm like, that's a great deal. I came down 15 seconds later. It was one of those moments in life where I didn't know why, but I knew I needed to be there. So I went back. I cut all my classes early, took the hit financially, packed my car, and came here and waited for school to start. I was so excited. Yeah.
That's awesome.
True story.
So SUU has I know they do the Shakespearean Festival thing, but was it the theater department that interested you right away?
No. So that was just, again, a sister of mine, another sister that was going here. Eventually I had 5 sisters going to SUU.
Wow.
I had 5 sisters and myself. Do you think I had a lot of friends? Every guy wanted to date one of my sisters. I don't think I had real friends, but I had a lot of associates. But one of my sisters, she went down and auditioned for a summer stock theater. It was down in Zion at Beaumaberry Inn, that has recently burned down. But they remade it, but it's different. But she auditioned for it, and the guy was like, I can't really use you, but I need men. We're doing 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, and I just need kind of rough characters. I don't care if they can sing, dance, or act. I just need men. And my sister was like, call my brother. So I get this random phone call. I'm like, who is this guy calling me? I am not an actor. I'm not going to do your dumb little play. I'm not your guy. Like, I've never acted in my life. And so we fight back and forth, and he finally says, fine. He gets frustrated. He's like, if you change your mind, I'm down here in Zion National Park. And I was like, whoa. So if I do, and this is a direct quote, so if I do your little play, I get to live in Zion National Park? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, great, I'll see you tomorrow. And then literally I packed my stuff and went down the next day. And again, it was one of those moments where I remember walking out on that stage because he showed me where I was going to wait tables. And then he was like, come over here. This is where we're going to do the show. And it's just this tiny little theater, but I was sitting on that stage. And you can call it the spirit. You can call it just a perfect moment in life. But I was like, something magical is about to happen. So get ready for it. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I was scared to death. I'm like, I've never acted before, but I was really good at memorizing lines. I didn't know I had that skill set. Next thing I know, I'm down there for May, June, July, August, September, and we extended into October because it was so successful and the bug got in me. I remember coming out, and my first connection with a live audience was one of the most powerful moments. But it was also a warning. It was a really interesting moment for me because I knew that I was connected with this audience and I could take that audience anywhere I wanted them to go. We were connected, but I could feel their energy. They could feel mine. It was this shared magical moment. I cut everything. Like I had changed my major. I had changed my major 6 times at this point. And I remember that awkward phone call to my dad, who was a dentist at the time, who would love to give that practice to one of his kids. We all went everywhere else, right? And I remember calling and telling him, Dad, I'm getting out of the pre-med program. I'm going to be an actor. Oh, it was terrible. But it was great because what it did was something awakened inside of me. There was this soul awakening, parts of me that were dormant, that I didn't understand were coming alive. And I'm like, oh, I got to go down this rabbit hole. Because I truly believe that we're here for experience. If we're here for experience, what better way than to be an actor? I get to be a different person every single time. I get to live 1,000 lives. I get to research if I choose to. I was hoping at the time, I hope I get to do a real person, because then maybe I could find journals and I could find articles and maybe I could even meet them. All of these things came true for me. All of them. I have been so blessed. If you look at my IMDb, there's a good handful of projects where I'm playing a real person who left journals, who has descendants that tell stories about them. I've played people that are still alive and I got to meet them. It's mind-boggling to me to think of a couple of decisions from a brother-in-law and a sister completely changed my life. And I actually fought it off, and I didn't want to do it. I was scared because I'm like, this is kind of isn't this a dark place to go? Isn't this a bad place to go? Or isn't this where all the weird people are? Are you kidding me? Yeah, they're weird and they're my people. I'm like, this is where you are. Oh, I found you. It was so awesome. So it was just this great moment in life at a young age to finally see something that I could actually do. But I never thought of it as a career. I always thought of it as something I was just doing on the side. And I'm glad I had that mentality because they pay you nothing in Utah. Nothing. You're just there because you just love the story. And to their credit as well, nobody's really getting paid a whole lot. We're hoping Faith of Angels does really well.
Yeah.
But Garrett has put his livelihood on online. Like, I mean, there's a lot at stake here. Well, Garrett didn't himself. I mean, they have investors on this one, but he's done other projects where he's put his livelihood on the line for it. So, yeah, we're there because we're passionate. We're there because we're connected to the story. We're excited to tell that story, and we just pray that people will go into the audience and go see it, because we do not have the budget that Hollywood has to promote these films. So this, like this podcast here, thank you. It's so much gratitude. Thank you.
Jason,
we have a lot of questions for you.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions, but you're so fun to listen to, Jason. No wonder you're so good at your job. Like you're really entertaining. Anyways, tell us about the character you play in Faith of Angels.
Faith of Angels, I get to play Ray Guyman. And Ray Guyman is he's part of the search and rescue team that actually, well, do I do spoiler alerts or do I? No,
you can tell us what the story's about, because we've already interviewed Garrett and he's kind of explained the movie. It's about a boy that gets lost in a mine. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm part of the crew that helps try to find the boy. And we show up. A lot of people are like, are you sure you're in this movie? It takes a minute for me to show up. But when I show up, Ben and I try to show up with a lot of excitement, and we are the hope, and we're going to find this boy kind of thing. So
that makes you the star. That makes you the star, Jason.
It makes us the star, yes. But what was so cool about that was that I think it was day 3 or 4. There was this hustle, there's kind of mumbling and all this energy, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. We were in the tunnel shooting, and then we were walking out of the tunnel, and all these people were gaggling up, and I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? And the real Ray and the real Gary were on set, along with the real Joshua. And that was just by far the coolest day, because then we got to meet them, talk to them. But what got better, it was lunchtime after that. I mean, I love lunchtime, but it was more than that. When lunch was done, everyone went back up to set, and Ben and I got to sit at a table with Gary and Ray for probably a little over an hour. And we got to listen to their events, like with their own words, telling us their own stories. And it just helped put everything where it needed to be so that we could go back in and do them justice. It was pretty amazing. So those are the kind of moments you're just like, you can't make it up. You can't plan it. And you're just like, thank you, God. Like you had a hand in that. And it really touched us, and it really helped enhance our performance in the film.
Yeah.
I don't even think I answered your question, but that's my answer.
Do you remember hearing about this story when it happened? Because it was a big national news story. You remember it?
I do. I don't remember a lot about it, but I remember this story as a kid, because it was a kid in a mine. So you're like, ooh. But I didn't remember details, so it was fun to get into the details.
Yeah.
Melissa, what do you like about the movie so much?
Well, first of all, I don't know if this is the right word, but the cinematography, like it's really pretty. It's a really pretty movie. The other thing is, I know it's a true story. Sometimes when people tell a true story, I feel like they make up little pieces of the story to make it more, I don't know, touching or more inspirational. And I didn't get that sense in this movie. I got the sense that the things that happened were actually the things that happened. And it just touched my heart for that reason.
Well, the first part, so the cinematography is done by Ryan Little, who is by far one of the greatest cinematographers that we have. I mean, he did Saints and Soldiers, all of them, Age of Dragons. He has an IMDb list, Forever Strong, like all these great films. He knows what he's doing. You had Jeremy Prusso, who was doing the other camera department We call it the Ronin, so all the handheld type stuff.
Okay.
And then you have Garrett at the helm. I mean, you can't go wrong. You got three of the greats right there working together. It was fantastic. Uh, but yes, true story. I think he had a lot of guidance from the actual people. And so what's great is that you have them, they're alive. They're there. You can ask them questions. You can put things together. Now, again, you got to have a little bit of creative license because you got to bridge all this together. But there were a lot of people that once this was done, they were like, oh, I never saw it with all of this information, all of these, these dots coming together. And these are people that lived through this. And they're like, this is really special for them because they got to see it more of a full picture
Yeah,
instead
that's
of their
neat.
experience alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, it came across as really genuine and it wasn't like trying to make you feel a feeling, but you felt feelings, it
Yes.
it
Yes.
was really special, I thought. Yeah.
Well, they did their job then.
Yeah.
So
That's a
Jason,
great
I want to ask
compliment right
you.
there.
I want
Yeah.
to ask you questions about your life and who you are and what, I don't know. So first is Jason Wade. It never occurred to me until we were talking off air that that's just your middle name.
Just my
That's
middle
what
name.
Jason.
Yeah. I'm not trying to deceive people. That it's not a stage name. People are like, oh, that's your stage name. It's not a stage name. It's my first and middle name. And then Nielsen is my last name. So if I come and do an event at a church, I'm going to be very clear with people. I'm Brother Nielsen, not Brother Wade. That's Sister Nielsen, not Sister. My wife is Sister Nielsen, not Sister Wade. She gets pretty annoyed when that happens, but that's okay. No, it's a first and middle name. When I went to LA, my manager, who took me in all sorts of interesting directions. Again, you got to know who you are when you go into that town. And I had a pretty good idea, but I wasn't entirely sure. And so I was getting guidance from people that may or may not have had my best interest. And I love talking to the youth about this because I explained to them, hey, you got to have a foundation for your life. And that foundation can be sort of presented to you by loving parents, and it could be presented to you by wonderful leaders. It could be presented to you by a great community that supports and loves you. But eventually you're going to find in your life, you're going to find yourself absolutely alone, and you're left to your own devices, your own strength. And what you need to do right now is build that connection between you and heaven, you and God. And that is such a personal connection so that when you're in those moments, you know where to go to get answers. Because I got down there and I'm telling you, crazy. We don't have time to talk about some of the maddening, crazy stories that happened down there. And you're just like, you've got to be kidding. I thought this was all folklore. Like, this is nuts. But then also, I don't want to present it like the big bad beast because there are amazing people down there doing amazing things. So you just got to know how to find them. You got to collect your people and you got to stay close to that. And you've really got to be guided by something more than a check, because I tell them, look, if you're looking for notoriety, if you're looking for celebrity status and money, you're going to get that for about 15 seconds. But what happens is you get down there and that industry is designed, if you don't have a definition for yourself, there's thousands of people that know what's trendy and what's cool. They're going to come in and they're going to, here's your definition. And if you don't have a base, if you don't have a foundation, you'll be like, that sounds like a good foundation. Boom, you go off and you're going to get all the celebrity you want for about 15 seconds. And then they're going to drop you when you're not hot. And then you're going to be left in a dark, cold place, not even knowing who you are. So if you want to know why there's so much drug use, why marriages don't work, why there's so much chaos, why everyone's just kind of like in a crazed state, I would bet that a lot of them never had a foundation. They're lost. And this is the true sense of lost. It's not a judgment on them. They are truly lost because they don't know where to go. They don't know what to know. They don't know truth. And then whoever's next to them is giving them what sounds good. And they're like, okay, I guess that's truth. And they're just wandering down these windy roads, with the wind, we know the scriptures. It's just interesting to see it played out in real life.
That's exactly what happened to a friend of mine. Like, right out of college, he had a lot of success in modeling. He was getting in a lot of films. He was so happy because he got an IMDb page so quickly. Mm-hmm. And then it was like really, really fast rise. And then he just crashed. It's kind of like they chewed him up and spit him out and they were done with him. And at that point, he also was sort of lost. He had nothing to turn to. So
Nothing
I
to
think
turn
that's a
to.
really good cautionary tale, Jason. Like
Hmm.
sometimes it feels like I'm way into acting, I want to get into this industry, and I can never make it. But what I hear you saying is that it's not that you can't make it, it's that
Oh, you can
it
make it.
takes time to define yourself and decide who you want
Yes.
to be. Like that
Yes.
process takes time.
And because I would never discourage anyone to go. But I would discourage them to wait. I would say, hey, hold on. Do you know what you have to offer? Not entirely. You don't have to be absolutely perfect on this, but do you have a foundation? Do you kind of have an idea of where you want to go? Because when you get down there, they were trying to change my name to some of the weirdest things you've ever heard. They were wanting me to change my physical features. They didn't like they wanted me to do surgery because they didn't like the creases in my skin. I'm like, I earned these things. I did fire for 13 years. I spent all my summers doing this, you know? I mean, I earned those things. But so don't take them away. Like I wanted to be there to do westerns and I wanted to do manly roles, and they wanted to gloss me over, and because I just had that look at the time. I know you don't see it right now, but I promise at one point I was somewhat like my brother
Oh,
was
he had the
more
look.
attractive than I was, but I was almost as attractive as my younger brother. I was right there, you know, that kind of
Jerem
thing. But
wishes he had. Jerem wishes he looked like you.
but you just have to be careful because you get in there and you could get lost. You could get disoriented. And I didn't do everything right. Like my manager led me down a couple of roads. I'm like, it took me a few weeks to realize, hold on, where are we going? And what am I doing? And then there was a moment, and this is hard. This is hard because I was getting to where I was the callback king. Like there were 4 casting directors down there that were, every time I'd show up for an audition, they would silence the room and be like, everyone, this is Jason Wade. He's going to be, get your eyes on him. He's going to be the next big deal. And I discovered him. And they were all kind of vying for that discovery, you know, bragging rights. And it was about that time. It's tough because, you know, you you work your entire life for something and you think it's right there and you can feel it. It's right on the cusp. And you've already dedicated and you've already sacrificed so much. And it's right there. All you got to do is walk through that door. And then that's when the spirit tells you it's time to leave.
Hmm.
And I was like, what? I have to leave? And I didn't listen. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I got packed my bags and I left. I stayed for another good 6-8 months. And I fought that. I had night terrors. I had day terrors. Like God was he was like, get out of this town. What I need you to do is so much greater. And this is not where you're going to find the roles. And I just kept plugging along. I mean, no, it's the next Marvel movie. It's the next, well, actually Marvel I probably would have hit the Marvel scene because it's just kind of
Wow.
doing this. But my manager was telling me, stay away from that junk. And he was putting me into some weird stuff. It was weird. Anyway, my point is I did leave and I was pretty angry. I went back east. I took a normal job. I left the creative world and I went to a corporate world, and I was a traveling salesman for 2 years and I was miserable. And if you want to know what soul crushing death looks like, you can just go back to my 2007, 2008 existence and you'd be like, okay, I'm living out of a car in Walmart parking lots because I can't afford rent because we just hit that recession. So I couldn't even live on the stipend that my company was giving me. I went $40,000 in debt to the company I was working for. I'm in Pennsylvania, which was like that was the hardest hit community. Like nobody had money. I am sitting in a state park going, this is where I live. I live in a state park. I got 7 trespassing tickets because I keep camping everywhere because in the West, we can camp anywhere. Over there, it's all private property. I was just like, what is happening in my life? What am I doing? And again, God said, it's time to go home. And I didn't think I was ever going to go back to Utah. But he said, go home. And I went back and I joined my fire team. And that fire team saved me because in one summer, I was able to work off all my debt. I got debt free in one summer. I put in mad hours. Any fire, any overtime, I had to get out of debt because it's crushing, right? I was creatively dead and I was physically, like, debt is terrible. Like, it hurts. You cannot move. You have no hope. So I got out of debt. And right after I got out of debt, about 2 months later, I got this feeling, maybe you should try Utah. Maybe you should try acting again. I was like, are they doing real movies here? Because when I left, they weren't doing real movies. I'm sorry. I know I'm friends with a lot of you that did those movies. They were just terrible. They were just terrible movies. They weren't the movies that
Thank
I
you
wanted to
for
be
your
a part of.
honesty. Thank you.
I'm just being honest. I'm glad they did it because it was they were paving a way. We're paving a way to get to something greater, and I understand.
Yeah.
But those weren't the movies that I felt connected to. Those weren't the movies that I wanted to do. And I was like, do they even have agencies? So I just Googled, best agency in Utah, and TMG popped up, and there's Vicky Panic's name, and she's been my agent ever since. And she's just wonderful. They're just amazing women. And I think I signed with them, and 3 weeks later, I get a casting call for T.C. Christensen's John Tanner, Treasure in Heaven. It's a little short film. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's about John Tanner, how he saved the church financially. And I look at my sides, and my scene, I played Jared Carter, is to tell a man in the name of Jesus to rise up and walk. If you want to know what it feels like to go from death to life, that moment, I was like, I can do that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Are you telling me? Like, I know I'm not using my priesthood, but to be in a film and to pretend to portray a moment where he most definitely did, in the name of Jesus, rise up and walk. And then I remember doing that. I was only there for like 2 days, and I was just invigorated. I was like, okay. I won't hang up. I won't retire yet. There's more to do. There's more to do. There's more to do, right? And I kept crushing. I'm like, right? I'm not doing what I just did. That was really painful. And then the next year, TC was calling and said, hey, I liked your work in John Tanner. I was wondering if you could look at this script. It's called 17 Miracles. And I was thinking about you playing Levi Savage. And I was like, Levi who? I don't know who Levi Savage is. So then that was dropped in my lap, and that changed my life completely. I looked at that script and I was like, that's the movie. That's the role. And everything, that awakening happened again, but it happened on such a spiritual level for me. And I wish we had another hour to talk about 17 Miracles. There's so many stories with that film, but it's all led me to Faith of Angels. Everything in there. Now, every once in a while I go and do fun things. I kill zombies. We got an Alien movie coming out, Alien Country, next month. And we're so excited about it. I like to go and play the mythical roles. I have to breathe. I have to have fun. But if you look at my career, 9 times out of 10, I'm in a pretty substantial role with a pretty substantial story that has been dropped in my lap at the exact time that I needed it. I needed those roles, and God knew I needed to rebuild. I was crushed. So every movie was just a piece of me being given back. It's like, here, let's work on this. And I got to be careful because I get really emotional talking about it because there's so much gratitude. Like, again, I can make fun of all these people for not paying us anything. We don't get paid anything. Like, I'm just be honest. I go into debt every single time I do a film. But here's the thing. I will continue doing it until the day I die because I'm drawn to these stories. And if these Utah filmmakers want to keep taking advantage of me, that's up to them. But one day, I hope that Utah will go through the growing pains and say, you know what, we probably should pay our professionals. It's not just actors, like the crew. I've worked on some sets where the crew was treated like garbage. I'm like, you're working for what? Like, are you kidding me? Like, we gotta do better. We do. I don't know how some of these people sit in front of their bishop and say, yeah, I'm honest with the dealings with my fellow men. No, you're not.
You're talking about Yellowstone, aren't you? It's Yellowstone and Kevin Costner.
I wish I was talking about Yellowstone. I wish I wasn't as close to home as it is. But that's a different story. That's a different day.
Hey,
My
Jason,
heart is so full of gratitude for the road that has brought me here. And I will work with Garrett any day of the week. I will work with Ryan any day of the week, John Light any day of the week, and TC any day of the week. They kept me from dying, not only spiritually perhaps, but most definitely creatively. They resurrected me from a creative death.
Yeah.
so the first show I remember seeing you in was like a seminary video about the Mormon Battalion. And I was like, wait a minute. Is that Jasen? Do you
Yeah.
remember doing this?
I'm in and out. I don't even remember doing that. Sorry. That was a dream. There's so many projects you're on for one day, and I have no memory. That was a one-dayer. But yeah,
I was like,
and
wow, Jasen made
yeah,
it. He's in the seminary movie.
he's in the seminary movies. I'm in like 4 or 5 of them, and I love it. I love it. So please keep calling me. I'm going to harass you about what you pay all your actors and your crew. But outside of that, I'm going to be very grateful for the work.
So I was a sophomore in high school when you were a senior. And
Mhm.
I remember the day you announced your mission call you got called to serve in Moscow, Russia. And I remember
Yes, I
everyone in
did.
church was like, oh.
Yeah, and
And
then I
and
was
then
I was running over to a map, going, "Where's Russia?"
and now I find out that Garrett Batty made a movie about Russian missionaries and didn't cast you as one of the Russian missionaries.
We hadn't met yet. And
Ah.
I told him, hey, that's a great story, and it is. He needed to make a movie about that because you've got a beginning, middle, and end. But we had some things happen in Russia that, oh, I mean, you should read my journals. I wrote a letter home to my dad, and I wrote a letter home to my mom. She did not. She did
No.
not get any of these stories until 13 years later. And then I sat her down and I read some of those stories, and she was weeping. And her reaction was, I would have come over there and picked you up myself. And I was like, that's why I couldn't write to you, Mom. Sorry. But it's so crazy. Like, we knew. Not that if a missionary dies, they weren't blessed by God. I'm just saying, like, there is definitely a protection around his missionaries. And that doesn't mean that bad things can't happen. That doesn't mean death can't happen. You just don't feel that fear. And I'm simply writing it down going, that's pretty cool. That was a pretty cool, because I remember I made the mistake, and this is a warning to all those that are thinking about going on a mission. Don't have this prayer with God. I told him, I want to go on a mission, because we had a couple missionaries come home and they were talking about how boring it was. In their message, I just knew that it was boring for them. And so I prayed to God and I said, look, I don't really know why I'm going. I just know I should go. But if I go, I don't want it to be boring. So it can't be boring. And I would like to go like the old apostles, just person script. I don't want to have anything to do with any personal stuff that's going to like detach me. Wouldn't you know it? I get to Russia. 3 days later, we go out to talk in the park with some people. We come back, and there's some people trying to bash down our front door. That was my first of many fights. I got in more fights on my mission than any missionary I know of. It was crazy. I don't know why, but I was just like this magnet. But he was breaking into the house. My reaction was just to punch him in the face. So he goes flying back into the wall, and they leave. And I'm like, okay, well, that's done. That was weird. And we leave the next day, and they came in, broke down the door, and they robbed me of everything.
Wow.
Everything. So I got my wish came
You got your
true.
wish.
Was boring, and I didn't have anything to my name. They did somehow. They left my garments, and there was cash underneath my garments, and they left my scriptures. That's all I had in the suit that I had on. And then at the time, President Nelson's, I believe, grandson, he was in our mission, and he was leaving, and so he left me with his coat and his suit, so I had something to wear, and that's what I wore the rest of my
Wow.
mission. Yeah.
Wow. Do you
Yeah.
still speak Russian?
Next question, please.
Oh, sorry. Did you not hear that?
No,
he
I
heard
did.
it.
I see. I'm sorry, Jason.
So Russian is one of those languages that if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So I can still like if it's in a script, I can read it. I still have some of the accent. I understand some of it, but at best on my mission, if anyone tells you that on their mission they learned Finnish or Russian past a 3rd grade level, they are lying to you. You barely get into that 3rd year in school. We're conversational, but then when you go home, you're back to basic stuff. And I at one of the universities I went to, I stayed in the Russian program for a bit, so I kept it up.
Mm-hmm.
Then I came down to SU, and SU had a program. But then the woman that was running that program, she was Russian, and President Yeltsin himself, asked her to come back to Russia during all that chaos. And so our program went with her, and I was given the option. Okay, I got to hurry and tell this story. It's so stupid. Don't do this.
Okay.
I had the option of finishing. Because I had 4 majors at this point, and I just needed to pick one and finish it, right?
Yeah,
and I had like 8 minors. And I graduated from institute twice. Like I was that guy. Should have been a doctor or a lawyer, but no, I was an actor. But I loved learning, and I was fascinated with everything. And again, every time I transferred, I'd lose credit. So I just had to start over again. So it just took me longer. But I had the option of finishing that program out on a BYU online thing. And I asked them, wait, hold on. So if I finish with a BYU, then I get a diploma from BYU? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, no, thanks. And I'll tell you why. This is brainwashing from my dad. He went to the U of U. He bleeds red. And it was just in my DNA to just turn down anything that had to do with BYU. Now I'm like, I'm an idiot. It's a great school. Could you imagine if I had that right there? Like, BYU, Russian. Anyway, idiot. Poor choices.
Okay, Jasen, I want to ask you a question about you as a dad, because you said you have an opportunity to maybe do like some youth firesides and stuff like that.
Yes.
And you talked a lot about how, I don't know, how important it was to keep a connection with God, and how everything really, and I think we're all like this, everything in your life kind of led you to where you are now. We're all like that. How does that influence the way that you parent right now? You've got what, 2 boys, did you say?
Yeah, 2 boys and an adult woman.
Okay.
So when I got married, I married Holly, wonderful, wonderful girl. In fact, I knew her at SUU. I wish I had time for that story because she was a gymnast there.
Oh.
I did security, and I always opted out of the football games to do the gymnastic meets. You could guess why.
Sure.
You could guess.
Sure.
But then I found out that she was 17, and I was like, "Oh, dirty old man, I'm out." She ends up marrying another guy, and years and years later, and grateful. I'm grateful this happened. I'm not grateful that it happened to her because divorce is terrible.
Yeah.
But I got a second chance. She was going through a divorce. My sister ran into her. Oh, and my sister knew how I felt about her, but I never told her. So when she found out about the divorce, you should call Jasen. And she literally was like, this is her direct quote, "He's still single?" Like disgusting, because I was 8 years older than she was. And she's like, what is wrong with that guy? So anyway, I'm in Pennsylvania, and I get this phone call from Holly. And it was like no time had gone past, and we just started talking late into the night. And a couple weeks later, I'm flying her out, and then we're dating. And it was tough because we were so far away from each other. And for years, we were never in the same state or in the same area. And then, almost 4 years later, I am now proposing to her and her daughter, Alexa. I met Alexa when she was 3, and I married her mom when she was 6. And so I've been in her life most of it. And I just consider myself her dad. I hope she considers the same thing with me. Not to ask her, but no, I got a 2-for-1 deal on my marriage, which was fantastic. And then Holly and I, we had 2 boys together. And so you asked how has it influenced me? And everything's been influenced by it. Again, I can sit here and talk about, I couldn't make a living, and I always had to have 2 or 3 jobs to keep this going. But what I do have is literally a collection of my testimony to my boys, which is priceless, priceless. And it's just sitting there, and they've seen a few, but they haven't seen a lot. And so eventually I hope that they get to go back and rewatch some of these movies and go, oh, look, there's Dad. And I hope that they're paying attention to the message, because my testimony is very much in these parts. It's me just basically letting them know, hey, here I am in this moment, and I hope you're learning these lessons. And here I am, like with 17 Miracles, humility. I had that all wrong. I thought that was all playing, small. If you gave me a compliment, I'd be like, oh, no, that's not me. That's my friend over here. God's like, no, I don't need people playing small. I can't build a kingdom if we're all playing small. We need to be great. I need you to be amazing. I need you to share light. So be the best version of yourself. So I hope they see that. And then Cokeville Miracle, it's like, the power of prayer, the prayer with family, the prayer with community, bringing you together and witnessing and recognizing miracles. And every film has just been this. Love Kennedy was basically essentially God has a plan, and it might not line up with your plan, and you've got to learn how to align yourself with him. I hope they see that. Faith of Angels, again, community prayer, hope. Always have hope. You've got to find a way to have hope. And this world is getting darker and darker, and we don't like to focus on that because we want to focus on the light. But you gotta let your kids know, hey, there are some pretty dark things out here. Let's warn you of a few things, but then let's build you a foundation that can empower you so that when you're in those dark moments, you know how to get out of them. Or if you can't get out of them, knowing one of my favorite stories, and I don't have time to tell you, but it reminds me that even if you give up hope, even if you've lost your light and you've lost your hope and you have sat down on that rock and said, I can't go any further, even then, he's still going to show up. He's going to show up, he's going to pick you up, and he's going to take you into camp. You just got to be patient enough. So when I see suicide rates going through the roof, you're just like, no, hold on. We all have dark days. We all are going through pain. We recognize this. And if we could just open up that communication and make it real, make our kids realize, hey, you're not alone. Like I've gone through some dark stuff. I'll probably not tell you all the details, but I'm going to tell you enough. But we have gone through this. Hold on. There's always hope. And that's the main theme in Faith of Angels. And that's why I gravitate to these kind of projects, because I needed that reminder. So for me to be on set every single day and to be a part of that, to be reminded of hope, and then to meet the real heroes that it actually happened to, you're just like, dude, you're amazing. Like you want to like say, no, anyway, he's amazing. He knows how to just kind of like bring it all together and show it to you in a way that you can see it. Just hang on for the ride, and it's going to come. You're going to see it. It might be a lot longer than you thought. For me, most of the things that have happened in my life happened 10 years past what I thought it was going to happen. But it happened. It happened. Yeah. You just got to hold on.
Yeah.
I'd like your perspective on this, Jason. So right now, Melissa serves in a YSA ward at Utah State University, and she's very right now cognizant of young single adults and the kind of challenges they face and what they go through.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were a young single adult for a while in the church. What advice and counsel would you give to some of these young single adults who maybe are approaching I guess there's two stages now, right? There's the 18 to 26, and then there's
Listen, it can be hard to feel like you're still in the plan. It can be hard.
Absolutely. And that is, it's one of the most challenging things I'm sure the church is dealing with. Because what do you do? Every program, everything that you have built with this church is designed for families. So you're going to naturally feel a little bit outside of it. But they're starting to get better with opening that up and saying, hey, families can look a little bit different. And we're having those conversations. Again, I think we need to, because that allows more people to not feel isolated and alone. And then you adjust. I remember aging out, and it was mockery. You're publicly shamed and humiliated, but it's in kind of a fun way. It's okay. And I remember going back to my singles ward again, and my bishop was like, oh, the wolf in sheep's clothing. Those kind of things are going to happen. It's fine. It's a funny comment. I just wanted to say, nope, I guess I can't say hi to friends. I'll go over it. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't that bad. But what you need to do, again, it goes back to foundation. Why are you in that church? What are you seeking? What are you trying to build that foundation, or are you just trying to be social? Are you there just to find a spouse? Are you there to learn the doctrine? Are you there to elevate your own frequency? Are you looking and searching for truth? Like, you've got to ask yourself these hard questions, because if you're just going to church for the social aspect, you're going to be pretty bitter, because you're going to get kicked out of certain things, and then you're not fulfilling this, so you got to go here, and you're going to feel a little bit lost and alone. But you're going there with purpose of, that could be something. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that needs to be over here. You need to be going there in search of truth. What truth are you going to glean from this day that is going to then lock into that foundation that you're building? That's going to release you from this. I just feel like God wants you to just kind of be okay. And once you get to that place of being okay, things just naturally start happening. But then sometimes he spins it, because he'll let some people get to that space of okay and let them go, okay, well, where's it? It's not happening. And then they let them go to the point of desperation. So you never know what's going to happen, but you just got to lock yourself into, why am I here? And I personally, I can only speak for myself. because I have some issues like everyone else. I have some issues, and sometimes it's hard. It's hard for me to go because I don't feel like things are presented the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But that has nothing to do with the church. That has to do with the person who just said it. It's like
Right.
we got to disconnect from. Anyway, whatever. We're talking about something else.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of opinions. We could talk for hours, but I go there and I am just checking in with myself. I am there for the sacrament first and foremost. That is why I'm there. I desperately need that sacrament because I am a flawed human being. But in my flaws, God still loves me and he's got a purpose for me. And my purpose right now is to raise those kids the best I can and to love that wife the best I can. Now I'm going to annoy her and I'm going to upset her and I'm going to disappoint her. But she also is going to have to figure out how to. So it's a challenge for her. Like we're helping each other here. Like I'm giving you something and you're learning. Yeah, I'm just kidding. But I'm looking for truth. The sacrament first and foremost, because I need that. I need that strength. I need that added strength in my life. And then I'm searching for truth. And that truth can come from a bad talk. It could come from the wrong kind of comment.
Mm-hmm.
And it could come from someone who is so sincere that you've never looked at it that way before. But if you're really opened up to it, it's going to happen. That's why I'm there.
Yeah.
I don't need everything to be perfect. I just need to have a moment or two every once in a while. It doesn't have to even happen every time I go to church, but every once in a while, I just need to have that reminder. Oh, there's that truth. And then just add that to my foundation.
Yeah.
And I think if we all just started searching more inward instead of outward, I think things would just kind of settle down. We have a culture that is just, I'm a better member of the church outside of Utah. I think a lot of people can say that. It's difficult inside this state because we have so many different variations of that culture and you're not really sure where you fit because you probably don't fit. I don't fit. I'm like, I don't, that doesn't seem absolutely right to me. So you're trying to find out where you fit and you don't fit. And so you feel isolated and you're like, well, am I even in the right church? And then you go to another church. And you're like, yeah, I'm going back to this church because that's not where I belong. It just, we're truth seekers. And I think if you have that spirit, if you have that honest intent of truth seeking and open yourself up to it, God's going to work some miracles in your personal life.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Jasen, talk to us. Let's wrap back around to Faith of Angels. Did you hear how I said Faith of Angels and not the Faith of Angels? You're welcome.
Good job, Melissa. Good job.
Tell us about this weekend is the national opening. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. Yep.
On Friday.
So what does that mean? Does that mean that anybody anywhere can go see it in a theater?
It's in select theaters, Melissa.
Select theaters. I wish. So if we had $250 million to throw at opening a movie, then yes, it'd be everywhere. We're working on shoestring budgets here. So they're getting it everywhere they can, where they can afford. And then people can actually get on Faith of Angels on their website and they can demand that it come there. And if they get enough people demanding it, then it will just magically show up in your theater.
Okay.
But you got to get 20, 40, 60 people saying we want this movie, and then it's going to show up. But without that demand, they don't have the money to send it out to Missouri or down in Florida. Like they need people saying, "Hey, we really want this movie," and then they can get it to them.
Okay, gotcha.
But it will be in 400 screens tomorrow.
Yeah.
So most of the listeners of this podcast, wherever you're at, you could probably find it tomorrow.
Most likely.
And you should. Like, wouldn't it be a shame if the number one film is some trashy film and Faith of Angels doesn't make hundreds of millions at the box office? Like, what would that say about us as a people? That we would allow that to happen. Some Penguin movie on HBO Max gets more views than Faith of Angels. Like, I know. Who are we that we would allow that?
I do talk to people about this because when I do the speaking events, 9 times out of 10 people are coming up, oh, we just want good content. And I'm like, well, guys, you have power. There's power. When you go to a movie, stop just going to the movies and going, well, we're here, we might as well watch something. Research that movie. Go to IMDb, research the movie, find out why is it rated that? Am I going to support that? Is that something that I want my kids to see? Do your due diligence. And if it's not something, don't do it because Hollywood only thinks in money. So when you buy that ticket, that means I agree with this film and they're just going to go make more of them. So if we as a whole say, you know what, enough with this. I'm going to I'm just going to use Faith of Angels. It's a shameless plug. I'm
Do
going
it.
Faith of Angels. You do that, everyone gets together. Guess what's going to happen? We're going to make more Faith of Angels. We're going to make those kind of movies because they can actually make money. And with that money, they have a production. They have a money to go into the next production. And we can keep telling these stories. So I keep telling people, you have the power. You think that you don't, but you do. We cannot be a mindless mob going to movies anymore. We have to be vocal. We have to say, Disney, enough. We have to say, hey, that's enough over here. We're not doing this. That's really dark stuff.
Secret Lives of Mormon Lives. Mormon Lives.
No judgment. We're not getting down that rabbit hole. But what I'm saying, when you have a choice, do your research and really know that you are supporting that movie by purchasing that ticket. And it's a strong message back to Hollywood if that movie doesn't make the money that they were expecting it to make. And it's a strong message when a faith-based film does better than a handful of films over here. And then even Hollywood is going to get on board because they'll be like, hey, we can make money on faith-based films. Great, let's do it. And then they start pumping them out, even though I'm a little worried about what direction they're going to take them. But that's a different story, a different thing.
Hey, Jason, I have known you for most of my life. As long as I've known you, I've admired you because you're a man of faith, you're a man of principle, and you're just so exciting. And it's been so fun to introduce you to the audience, Jason.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for joining us. It's been great to catch up with you.
I love seeing you. I love talking with you. Let's do it again. I got more stories. Let's do it again.
Thanks so much, Jason.
What if we had a high school reunion? That would be something.
I'm in charge of those. And if somebody would have told me that running for what was that? What was I? Class president meant that I had to do reunions the rest of my life. I'd been like, this is not for me. I was only there to do again, I've been an actor my whole life, I guess, because the only reason why I ran for office is so that we could do the skits up on stage. I'm having a moment. I'm seeing the dots connected. All right. I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
This is great.
Awesome. Yeah. We're going to end on that. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you. Good to see you.